And then let's see what has happened. As a result of this, we now have trading blocs. NAFTA is on one side, the North American Free Trade Agreement, in which the United States, Canada, and Mexico are a group. Then there's the European Union bloc. Then there's the Asian bloc. Then there's Brazil standing on its own. And then there are the South American countries and Cuba, the only country which grows so far only organic food, but not for long. It may only last as long as Castro does. And so now, therefore, I've come to conclude that the food produced in the United States and Canada is the most dangerous anywhere on earth. But because now US is the only superpower left, or perceived to be the superpower, at least it can still throw its weight around on the rest of the countries, and countries like China, India, the same type of corrupt politicians and systems. They're saying, we want to bring prosperity. India, ink is shining, China is growing, and Brazil is progressing, and Russia is coming on board, and South Africa will come along. This is the system that we are falling into. There's too much food in the world. Companies, the corporations are saying they want to feed the hungry world. That's a complete lie. The hungry world is now feeding, has been feeding the developed world for a long, long time. China, India, Mexico, Brazil, they're all food exporting nations. People in India are still starving, a lot of them, and commit suicide, but that's not because of lack of food. There's no shortage of food. That's because of corruption, because the farmers who produce food are not allowed to have food. They are the ones, and the corporations. And then Monsanto, Eli Lilly, Pfizer, BASF, Dow, all these companies are now descending in India. Even the universities want to open branches in India because Indians speak English and it's a highly educated country. And so therefore they're saying, we cannot sustain our prosperity in America, so let's go to India and China. Do it to them and retain our prosperity. And what's the source of prosperity? Intellectual property rights. What are intellectual property rights? There are no products. It's only cockamamie ideas of Monsanto and Bayer and Pfizer and all these kinds of companies trying to say we're going to produce genetically modified organisms, which means both plants and animals. And that's what people will eat all over the world. And that way we'll produce more, not only more food, but more nutritious food. We will produce rice which has protein in it, for God's sake. Why do you need protein in rice? Why can't you eat beans or meat or drink milk, which is the way nature intended it? They are going to put more vitamin A in golden rice, genetically modified. Why can't you eat carrots? They're going to increase vitamin D. Why can't you go in the sun? Vitamin B12. Why can't you eat green vegetables, leafy vegetables, clean? Why can't you grow your own? And so I'd like to, before I come to the solutions, I want to give you a critical piece of information to the audience. The European Union got wiser because, first of all, their experience with mad cow disease, and even before that, hormones and antibiotics, led mainly by one small little country, Denmark, 4 million people. They did the testing. They did the testing on hormones. They found hormones, some of them, are complete carcinogens. And they found antibiotic resistance is coming from the animals. So they said to the European Union Parliament, whether you people want to stop it or not, we are banning both these products. And we all have already banned the use of slaughterhouse waste. No animal products are to be fed back to any food producing animals in Europe. That's the European law. And induced by Denmark, then other Scandinavian countries, Sweden and others joined up with them. And so they banned the use of hormones, beef hormones, and both now therapeutic and non-therapeutic. In other words, you cannot even use hormones for synchronization of estrus and in food-producing animals. And so in the European Union, all these products are banned. So there are trade barriers between NAFTA and the European Union. The matter has been lingering in the World Trade Organization for the last 2 decades. The WHO, the FAO, and its Codex Alimentarius, they're all now part of that corruption. They set up these peer bodies to say, we will set standards, not only for hormones and antibiotics, and but also for melamine, for bisphenol. I mean, these are the new entrants because those foods now cannot be produced. It's not just factory farming. It's these factory operations for transport of food in canned foods, bottles, coming manufactured in China, India, wherever they're going to, because no factory, whether it's food production or processing, can be sustained in the very expensive American and European countries. In the G8 countries, labor is too expensive. They cannot do that. So the same companies that did all this harm, horrible harm, in the rich countries have moved into, and they're rapidly moving into, China, India, Brazil, and everywhere. So now people are going to have to eat, they already are, but much more, food that will be grown and manufactured, toxic food in India, China, Africa, Brazil, Mexico, wherever. And it'll all be imported all over the world under the control of the corporations. The fight between Europe and North America is, it cannot be sustained because companies have already moved out of here. Drug companies, chemical companies, slaughterhouses, they've all moved. And they also, and we've talked about it before, they also create these scares, some true, some made up. Bird flu, swine flu, all this nonsense that goes on. It has implications for humans and food production. And these are all made up stories, and then food is becoming more and more toxic. And they give you solutions. The solutions that the governments are giving are ignore the existing law, Food and Drugs Act. We're not going to ban any of the things that the European Union has banned, but we will set standards for them. And those standards will become worldwide. And so you will have no choice whether you live in Europe or America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. And I've traveled to all these places in the last 2 years. And India and so on. So food must be of the same standard, which means the most toxic everywhere, most dangerous everywhere. So there should be no discrimination of any kind, whether you're rich or poor. We'll all be eating the same toxic food everywhere on earth, produced by factory farms, large slaughterhouses, and food processors,